Okay, so I just talked about the only one in another video. Now I'm going to talk about this new zoom lens that Olympus has come out with. Now, as you all know, I've been drooling over the white one. Okay, someday I would love to get that one, and I've already made a video saying that, you know, when this cancer battle of mine is over with, I'm going to get that lens as kind of a reward to myself for everything that I've been through in the last year. But yeah, what do I think of this lens? Man, I really like this lens. I'm actually, this 150 to 600 millimeter lens is very tempting to me. It kind of has everything that I wish that this guy had. This is the 100 to 400. Okay, this is a 1,500 millimeter lens, and I've used this lens a lot. I've done some astrophotography with it, of course, and a lot of moon photography with it. The extra 200 millimeters would be pretty nice. Okay, and so what do I like about it? Okay, so first off, I do like the focal range. I think the focal range is better for what I already use this lens for, and that's wildlife. I think what's also really cool is that I wouldn't need to use a teleconverter on the thing, and you know, that would essentially give me one extra stop, because right now when I use this lens, a lot of times I use a teleconverter to get far enough, because birds are kind of small, and well, yeah, you lose a stop doing that. Okay. The other really cool thing about this lens that I really like about it is that this new lens has sync image stabilization. This guy doesn't. And I know a lot of you have been talking about, well, what if somebody just buys an adapter and puts the Sigma version on the camera for $1,000 less? Because, you know, that's something else everybody's complaining about, is the price difference. Because the Olympus branded version is $1,000 approximately more than the Sigma version. You know, and I've got two thoughts about that. So number one is that it has sync image stabilization, and sync image stabilization with a lens of this focal length is definitely something you should be willing to pay $1,000 for. And I think wildlife photographers who have experience in this kind of field will know that and will recognize it and will see the advantage of it. Okay, because if you take the Sigma lens and just throw an adapter on there, guess what? You are not going to get sync image stabilization, and imaging with it is going to suck. Okay. You know, trust me, this guy here, oh, I so wish this had sync image stabilization, because sometimes, like, I really debate with myself. It's like, is the in-camera body stabilization better, or is the lens stabilization better? Because you can only use one at a time. You know, you either use the lens image stabilization or the camera body's image stabilization. And I gotta say, a lot of times the camera body's image stabilization is better than I think the lens is. So the fact that this new lens that Olympus Systems has come out with has sync image stabilization, I think it's going to be a big step in its favor. And in the past, like Canon, I know when they were making lenses that had image stabilization and lenses that didn't have image stabilization, the price difference between the two of them was about the same as what you're seeing with this new lens. So not unheard of, okay? And I think a lot of people that are complaining about this price increase because of the, you know, that one feature, sync image stabilization, you know, they don't have experience with these kind of big lenses and aren't accustomed to the premiums that are charged just for image stabilization alone. And I know Canon guys and Nikon guys who have experienced this, you know, with the bigger lenses will kind of know what's going on. Now, the other thing with the price, you've got to remember that a branded lens from a camera is always going to have much better resale value. So long term, if you are buying this lens, you know, this is a significant investment, you know, it's $2,700. You're going to be thinking long term, and the price to pay just to have the badge on it alone, even though it's the same lens, guess what? It's worth it. Because when you go back to resell the lens and upgrade to something else, you're going to get your money back. With a Sigma lens, you're not going to get your money back. In fact, my local camera dealer, he has a box this big, filled to the brim with lenses that are free, because they're not brand lenses. They're off brands, like they're Tamrons, they're Vivitars, there's Sigmas in there. There's a whole bunch of different lenses, and most of them telephoto lenses too. And nobody will even pay for them. They're free. You can come in and take as many as you want from his shop. He wants to get rid of them. So yeah, that's the story about off-brand lenses. Off-brand lenses just don't hold their value like a branded lens will. So long-term investment wise, you know, should you pay the extra money for the name and for the sync image stabilization? I think yes, I would. You know, and that's why I'm kind of drooling over this lens. I'm really tempted to get this before my cancer battle's over. We shall see. All right, so there's one more thing that I want to touch on with this new 150 to 600, and it's a big misunderstanding that a lot of people seem to be getting wrong these days. They think that for some reason that because the Olympus version of this lens is for a 4/3 sensor, they think that it should be smaller. That couldn't be anything further from the truth. Physically, that's not possible from a physics standpoint. And this seems like people are getting this kind of stuff wrong more and more lately, which, I don't know, maybe the entire world's getting stupider. I don't know. It seems that way, and academically, people are not as smart as they used to be. But like, this is for example, okay? If I was to redesign this thing for like a smaller sensor, the length of it, if the focal length's going to stay the same, the length of it's going to stay exactly the same, okay? And the aperture, dimensionally, it's still going to have to be 120 millimeters, regardless if I put a 4/3 sensor behind it, a 1-inch sensor behind it, a 1/3 inch sensor behind it, or a medium format sensor behind it, right? Aperture, focal ratio, it's all going to stay the same if the focal length stays the same. The only thing that could possibly get smaller, like this is the field flattener for this guy, is the back lens element of the field flattener. Okay, the front one is still going to stay the same. Like that's the only piece that could really get any smaller with something that's designed for a smaller format. So yeah, a little bit of a frustrating thing that I see that this shows up on the forums and everything, and that people are loud about it, you know, that are wrong. But yeah, the size, it's going to be the same regardless if it's for a big sensor or a small sensor, at least in the telephoto world, okay? The only place where you see the significant difference between lens sizes, given like the same focal length or the same field of view, is going to be with wider angle lenses. And that's because the rear lens elements have to be a lot bigger, of course, proportional to the overall size of the lens, all right? So there you go. There's a little bit of physics for you. I know everybody in high school should have taken optics. I know I did. I still remember how to do all it and how to do the math. And for some reason, everyone seems to have forgotten it all, which is sad. Okay, but yeah, the lens 115-600 that Olympus came out with, or OM Systems. Guess what? It will be exactly the same size, no matter what kind of camera you stick behind it. Okay, just like this telescope will be exactly the same size regardless if I put my OM1 on it, or if I put an APS-C sensor on it, or if I were to get a 35mm sensor, which I'm not going to do right now. There you go. There's my thoughts on that new lens. I haven't tried it yet, of course, obviously. Maybe I will get one to test. I'm going to see if OM Systems will let me test one.